We are delighted to have with us our keynote speaker for the evening, Mr. Shripati Acharya. Mr. Shripati Acharya is the co-founder and managing partner at Prime Ventures, a premier early-stage venture capital firm. With a career spanning both the US and India, he brings a global perspective to business building, shaped by leadership roles across consumer internet. He co-founded Snapfish, which became the world's largest online photo service and was later acquired by Hewlett Packard. At Cisco, he held senior roles leading initiatives in wireless and education focused technologies. He also contributed to the Unique Identification Project under Nandan Nilekani, helping build one of the most ambitious and impactful digital infrastructure initiatives in the world. An IIT Madras graduate, Shripati also holds a master's from Stanford University and an MBA from Harvard Business School. Mr. Shripati combines deep analytical thinking with the passion for building exceptional teams. When not decoding startup trends, he can be found exploring the latest veggie salad, trekking through the Himalayas, or simply enjoying the time outdoors. Thank you so much for taking out time to address our scholars today, Mr. Acharya. I would like to let the audience know that if you have any questions for Mr. Shripati, please post it in the Q&A box and we'll answer them as soon as he's done with his address. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Tanvi, and it's a real privilege to address this gathering of students, alumni, and supporters of FFE. Such an amazing initiative, and I couldn't be more happy to both have this opportunity and to be associated with it. So, without any further ado, let me just quickly jump onto it. I'll keep this short. I'll keep this as conversational as possible. And as Tanvi suggested, probably leave enough time for Q&A after that. I'm going to just share a presentation here. Hold on. Are you able to see the screen, Tanvi?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's jump right into it. So what I thought we would do today is just give a short presentation here because a lot of questions which you might be having as first year students or even those maybe some of whom are the alumni is like, how do we, like what to do next? What is the right thing to do? What is the right job to have? How do I actually take which course should I take? Should I do a startup? Should I not? And so on and so forth. So I just put together some of my thoughts on it. And let me just say that whatever I'm saying has actually been said before and probably been said better by most people, honestly. So anything which you see is nothing new here. But at the same time, it is just probably colored with some of my experiences, right? So take it with that bias because everybody talks about advice and mentoring and so on and so forth. But it's probably good for all of you to realize that they're all coming with their own biases here. So you should feel free to question everything and say, this doesn't work for me. So put it this way, that these are things which have sort of worked for me and what my own learning has been. So what are we actually looking for here, right? And I feel that making good decisions kind of like boils down to having good judgment. And good judgment is usually making good choices from good alternatives. So only when you have like good alternatives can you make good choices. So I feel that a lot of our focus, at least at this stage in your career, should be about how do we go ahead and create a set of good alternatives that we have to choose from. And then the better those alternatives are, the higher the chances are that you will probably make a good choice, and it could be on any number of dimensions, right? So the rest of this talk is really about maybe some tips on doing that. So what do you do in AI? Careers in the age of AI is probably one of the biggest problems or questions which you have in your mind. And I put this particular cartoon here because it's two dinosaurs talking and saying, hey, look, maybe should we develop a technology to help us with asteroids? And there's a big asteroid which is coming down, as we know, and wiping them out. So, good, important to understand that in timing, not all movements are created equal. And what I mean by that is that there are certain moments in our lives which are actually more equal than others. And these are things like transition points in your career. So when you enter FFE into college, right, through FFE is probably one. It's a whole new world out there. When you graduate and are looking for your first job, it's probably another. Changing jobs and moving on to new careers is probably third. Getting married, who do you get married to, or relationships you get into is probably fourth. Having kids is one, is fifth. So these are all like important transition moments. And in each of these moments, the decisions you make are probably more important than the decisions and choices you make at other moments. And we kind of like, the thing is that these important decisions and transition points kind of like creep up to us. If you think about like an important transition point happening maybe 4 or 5 times every 4 or 5 years, you'll probably have about maybe 8 or 10 of them in your entire life. And it is so important to actually take a step back and think through them. And I think that if you just take not a personal, but a career-centric lens to it, AI is one of them. And I feel that AI has been, I mean, a lot of folks have talked about, is AI like electricity? Keeping it more contemporary, I would say AI certainly feels like as important as the start of internet. Right, I was just in my first job when it sort of first came out, the browser first came out, and so on and so forth. And I just felt like so weird the first time I experienced it and said, I can't believe that I can actually access any information anywhere. This feels both very empowering and somewhat scary at the same time. And AI is like that, right? Which is not only just getting information, but getting knowledge on anything all the time on your fingertips, right? So it's a very important moment. So how do you actually deal with this moment? And just one second. What I would say that is that when you think about careers in AI, it is, you can think about it as a confrontation. You can think about it as a battle you are having. And in any battle, the offense is the best form of defense, right? You're just better off running towards confrontation than confrontation coming towards you. And the benefit of running towards confrontation is that you can actually meet it at your own place and time and then decide your reaction. And I firmly believe that, of course, there will be job losses and job changes and so on and so forth. But for the most part, the danger is not that AI will replace humans, but the realization that humans who know how to use AI tools will replace those who do not know how to use AI tools. That particular piece of it I can say with a lot of certainty. It holds true for your careers. It also holds true for my career, and also everybody else who's listening in on this call. So I think that this is an important enough inflection point in technology that we need to be very conversant with it. You need to know how to use it, and it'll definitely make your ability to contribute and do your work much, much, much better and probably more effective and more impactful. So learning AI tools, learning how to use those AI tools and making them a fabric of your everyday study and work is a super, super important. And related to that is that we are entering an era, it has always been this way, but it is never more important than now, is about continuous learning. So once you graduate from college, the learning doesn't stop, right? I learned most of the things after college. In fact, I can't even remember anything which I learned in college, which I actually am applying now. But there are a lot of things which I have picked up over the last 5 years, which I'm applying now. So the least I can say is that If you think that you're done with learning at the end of college, you're very mistaken. Anything which I did in my own startup back in 2000, uh, whatever we did is not relevant today. But yet we need to actually understand what is without reading, without talking, without listening, the relevant things. We won't be able to compete in this age of AI. So this is a question which I get probably more often than I would like to, which is, should I do a startup? And I will just give a very quick one here, and we can discuss more in the Q&A if there is interest, which is that you're better off asking the question actually how to make bets in general in life than to ask whether I should do a startup or not. And so it is, I've seen that most startups are the success of most startups is associated a lot more with luck than you would believe. And the question then really is that, okay, if it has really got to do with a lot of luck and timing and so on and so forth, can this really be learned, or is it just like a game of chance? And I would say that you can learn to increase your chances of being lucky by just understanding how the dynamics work. And the dynamics are really about making bets and understanding bets. Almost anything which you do in life, any decision you take is a bet. It has got a positive or a negative consequence. It sometimes goes in your favor and sometimes it doesn't. It is, for every small thing like taking an Ola is a bet. Whether, you could do this, or you could take a bus, or you could walk, or you wouldn't go there, etc. And to taking more important decisions like what kind of job should I take is a bet, right? And bets have consequences. And major bets have major consequences. So understanding how to take some of these judgment calls is like a super important piece of it. And what I say there, which is saying roll early, roll often, is that one of the things which I have found to be of great use in life is how to deal with uncertainty and ambiguity and being just comfortable with it. Because most folks are not comfortable with ambiguity and uncertainty. I mean, all of you who are recipients of FFE scholarships and part of the FFE family have already overcome very long odds and overcoming them. So you already have the DNA of actually doing that. But I would say that going forward, just in general, understanding what bet you're taking and saying that, hey, look, if it doesn't go my way, it's okay, just increases your DNA about taking some of these bets. I'll get a little bit more specific here. So when you're actually thinking of an opportunity, is that if you have thought about it and are prepared for it, you're much, much likely to succeed. So here on the left is actually a photographer. There's a guy called Ansel Adams. He's a very famous photographer, especially in the US. On the right-hand side is a very famous picture he took in one of their national parks. And so that picture didn't come about just like that, right? It came about sitting on top of a car with that tripod. This is like in the early 1900s, and waiting for days for the right moment to show up out there on the right-hand side. So how do you actually create these moments for yourself? And one of the biggest things about being prepared and having luck favor for work for you is actually getting prepared for the right lucky moment to arrive. So one very important and tactical thing associated with it is that the role of geography and where you decide to stay and work is probably the single biggest determinant of luck. And I'll just tie it down to my own career. So when I was starting in tech, I decided that I graduated with an MBA out in Boston, which is on the East Coast of United States. And I wanted to make my career in technology. So I felt that this East Coast is not the right place to make a career in technology. The East Coast has got in the USA, New York and Boston and Philadelphia and all these big cities, but really Silicon Valley and San Francisco is where I should go. So I just moved there and I took a job there. And when I moved there and I took a job there, I ended up meeting my co-founders for Snapfish, which was the first company which I had the fortune to start. And similarly, when we are coming to India, there was a lot of choices in terms of cities to move to. And I figured that being in Bangalore made the most sense. And being in Bangalore ended up being very fortuitous because I ended up meeting Sudha. I mean, Sudha is a great friend, and I know her because I was in Bangalore. I ended up meeting Nandan Nilakani, who was, of course, the force behind Aadhaar, and it was just an incredible experience. I ended up meeting my partners with whom I started Prime Ventures, which is my current job, right? So the people you meet, the opportunities you get, are a lot very dependent on the place where you are. So if you're interested in a particular thing, think about where you're taking that job. If you get a job in a location, I don't want to just name a city, but think about any place. If you actually go there, the next set of opportunities are actually going to be associated with the place you have been. So this is an example of like increasing your chances of being lucky. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but if you're in the right mix, chances are that you'll get lucky. So think carefully about the place where you choose to be and spend your time. Related to that is the people with whom you decide to spend your time, right? Because the company you keep are the opportunities you get. I think Prabhu Goyal just said in the previous video, and also Ram in his talk, like networking is really important. Well, the people you know are really important. And when I look at any of the companies which I started, it was none of them were my ideas. They're all ideas of friends who I was actually talking and meeting with, and they invited me to come and join them. So entrepreneurship, even if you decide to do a startup, doesn't mean that you need to have a good idea. You just need to have good friends who have great ideas. And if you do that, then it's quite likely that you'll actually get the right opportunities. But on this slide, I guess this might be the most important tactical advice I can actually give here in this talk, which is that I'm talking not just about networks and mentors, but I'm also talking about building your own board of advisors. And by board of advisors, I mean people you can pick up the phone and call when you really need some advice. And this can be personal advice, at your professional thing, or it can be personal. And a lot of times it is personal. There was some talk about, how mental health and being able to keep a healthy mind is just so important. I couldn't stress that more. But what has helped me a lot in making, when I'm in some crucial or important decision, is being able to talk to friends who I know do not have any of their own interest in their mind and will actually give me the best advice from their point of view for me. Doesn't mean that I have to take all this advice. It just means that they'll share their point of view. And I've never regretted that. I've always regretted not asking actually my friends about some important decision and then later saying, man, I could have done that better. But when you ask your friends, they'll actually give you that advice. But the only way that happens is that you need a couple of things. One, you need to actually cultivate that set of friends who you can call. But more importantly, you have to get comfortable with hearing thoughts and advice which you might not like. But if you do both of those things, I think that you'll end up making a much more informed and much more better decisions. And this can go anywhere from, which job should I take to where do I stay, and maybe if your girlfriend or boyfriend is a good person or not, right? It can be for all of these reasons. But build this because otherwise it's very lonely, and life has a lot of twists and turns which are just hard to navigate without having a good board of advisors. So build that, right? Have people you can call and who can call you, right? Because then it's a good symbiotic relationship. So I'll just end with this last slide, right? And this is sort of like a more Uber slide. And I'll just narrate a story around this. So this was a case study which I had in business school, and it always remained with me as something which I thought about. And the story here is that this is a true story, by the way, as I think most cases are. So there is a sadhu, and there's a whole bunch of people who are actually hiking in the Himalayas. So, and they're in a long 10-day kind of trek. And so they are going on this trek, and they're 2 or 3 days into it. So they are high in the Himalayas. There are these small villages which they have come off, and they're about 6-7 hours hike from the nearest village, and they have to hike another 6-7 hours to actually get to the next village. And they are hiking in snow, so you can just imagine that it is high, they're tired, and they're all thinking that, okay, man, let me all get to the other side and have a warm water and food and things like that, right? So that is the State of the Union. So at this point, they see a person who's clearly a sadhu. He doesn't have a shred of clothing on him. He's naked, and he's sort of there lying sort of, in a semi-conscious state on the snow. And these 5 or 6 people are actually moving. They're hiking one behind the other. And the first person, the second person just looks at the sadhu and they just keep walking ahead, right? And then one person stops and says, hey guys, wait, right? What's going on here? This person needs our help, and we need to just go back and take him down. And then there's like a debate there. Some people just say, hey, look, why do you want to take him down? Right? I got to go and say, we have a lot of hours to go. And if you actually go ahead and do this, we won't be able to complete this trek. We'll lose a day. If we lose a day, we might not be able to make our flight from that. And the whole thing, which I have prepared for a whole year, will sort of come to a grinding halt, and I just will need to return from here. And all of this because this person is sitting here, and so why should I do that? And so that's this long debate, and then the whole thing ends, right? So the person who wrote this story was himself somebody who worked on Wall Street and who was a successful banker and so on and so forth. And he said that, look, I really regret, not having helped that person, because ultimately the whole crew just kept going on, right? So nobody knows what happened to that person on the snow. So now comes the question whether it was the right thing or the wrong thing, right? To leave that person there. And we had this big long debate for an entire hour, as case studies are, right? People said yes, some people said, look, it's a sadhu's responsibility. Some people said it isn't. And what are we doing? They should have helped him. But in the end, my professor, who was himself actually in his 70-something, right, came across and said that, look, the question and the answer here is not that whether you should have helped the sadhu or you shouldn't have helped the sadhu. There are good arguments for both of them. But that you shouldn't be like 50-year-old coming back and writing a story like this and saying, I regretted it, right? Because by this time you should know what your own compass is and what makes sense for you and what doesn't make sense for you, so that you do not have regrets, right? So what I'm trying to say here is, what is success, right? The right success right now is getting a good job. It's getting sufficient financial stability. It is helping your parents and your family who have sacrificed for you, being helpful to your friends, and so on and so forth. And all of that might be what you would think. But I would say that it varies for every person. So the surest path to be unhappy is to go around comparing yourself to other folks. That I can say with a lot of confidence. But what I cannot say is what is success for you, because that is something which only you can answer. Success, I perhaps can say, is a feeling. But we can say how success feels like, right? It feels like not having regrets. It usually goes around, is accompanied by a feeling of gratitude. It also is, has other endearing qualities like kindness and so on and so forth, right? That successful people have. Usually money is not one of the things which actually ultimately ends up being, but then you know what, even that is a subjective thing. Maybe money is an indicator of success. I wouldn't go so far as to say it isn't. But whatever it is, it takes some thinking on your part. And when you actually, over the next 10, 15, 20 years, as your career progresses, it is helpful to actually come to figure that out in your life, so that then you don't go around having these kind of mental dilemmas. But let me actually, on that philosophical note, sort of like stop here, Sudha and Tenvi, and then I'll just open it up for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shripati, for that inspiring note. We do have a few questions from our scholars. We'll just address them now. So one of the scholars have asked that majority of jobs are AI and impact in different engineering streams. While you have touched impact on AI, anything you want to tell them on the potential impact in different streams? Also, how do they stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, so one thing is that you might as well actually junk all the various forecasts you're getting about AI because none of the people know what they're talking about. And the reason is that it's very, very difficult to forecast something. It is like driving in a fog, right? You really don't know where the things are changing so fast. And one clear way of actually figuring this out is go and listen to all the articles which were written 1 year ago. And none of them will actually seem very relevant today about where the AI state of AI is. So all we can say is that yes, of course, it's going to impact jobs. It's also going to create jobs. It's also going. In fact, one of the things which I do firmly believe that it's going to deeply increase the access to technology for everybody. So what's going to happen is that just imagine the focus of a driver or our house help, which we have, many of us, right? They're not ordering from Amazon or Flipkart and so on and so forth. They're probably paying a lot more to buy from wherever it is. All of those folks will actually be able to use technology, which means that the role of tech and the market sizes will increase. So what's going to happen is that it's a very complex thing. So how the AI is going to impact a particular engineering discipline is probably a little bit like saying what will be the weather be in 2026 in Bangalore on July 2nd, 3rd, right? We cannot predict it. That's number one. Which means that we have to do things which we can control. So no point trying to actually go and worry about things which you cannot control. So whatever discipline you are doing, AI will have a role in it. That is something we know. And if you are actually conversant in those tools, you're going to be very employable and productive member of the society. So I would actually take that, go for a field in which you have an interest. If you have an interest, you'll actually become good at it, and make sure that you're actually spending the time to learn and deploy AI tools. So that's why I said in my very first slide, it's not like AI will replace humans, but it's like humans with AI tools replace those who don't.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for that. We also have one more question where one of the scholars have asked, do you think taking a job is more secure than starting a startup of your own?
Yeah. So I told you that I knew that question was going to get asked out there because I'm actually asked this question. And I say that, actually startup is not like a thing you can put on your calendar and say that on December 1st, I'm going to do a startup. And those actually don't usually work out well. So I can tell you what usually works out well. I've had the opportunity really to meet hundreds of startups, right? We meet about 2,000 a year. So you can imagine that this is something which we have the benefit of a lot of sort of seeing over the years. So what I've seen is that the best startups are those where the person who's starting has felt the pain themselves. So they're motivated to actually do it. They really want to do it. And those are the best startups because then you're actually not looking at somebody else to say that it's a good idea. You believe it's a good idea. Now, is there a problem that you're really passionate about out there? Well, a good way to actually is to have or start an entrepreneur-like thinking for it. And what distinguishes an entrepreneur thinking from a regular thinking is when there's a problem, most of us would say, man, I hate that there's a problem. An entrepreneur would say, yes, there is a problem which I want to solve. So it's really the mindset. So I would say that at this point of time, there is no good answer to about, okay, should you actually do a startup or not? It's only something which you can do. But I will say this, that doing a successful startup out of college is usually very hard because it involves all these other things which they don't talk about in most startup books, which is it's about learning how to deal with people. It's about being able to attract good people into your team. It's about having a lot of domain knowledge about that particular space and so on and so forth. So most good startups actually start out as part-time ventures. Startups are not about taking a lot of risk. right? We just have this idea that startups are about, the entrepreneurs take a ton of risks and then they succeed. Actually, the best entrepreneurs take very little risk. What they do is that they go and talk to a lot of customers. They really verify this is a problem. They understand if there is actually I can get paid for it and so on and so forth. All of it before they actually jump into it. So I would say that if you really want to do a startup, then try it out as a part-time thing to see that it's really something which for which there is a need and so on and so forth. Still feel passionate about it, go do it. Just don't do it because somebody else is doing it.
Hi, Shripati, hi. There are a lot of questions for you on startups and fundraising and a lot of other stuff, AI stuff. So there's a related question where students are asking, I'm just a second year engineering scholar and I want to do some fundraising. They're already working on some drones and some other projects. So how early is too early for somebody to even think about, going for a startup journey?
I don't think there's anything which is too early, right? To be totally honest, we just recently funded a company where the entrepreneurs had started it in the second year of their college, and they worked on it, and we funded it 2 years after they graduated. So they're working on it for 4 years, but they're working with their professor, and they got some, product out there, and so on and so forth, right? So there is no, if you feel so passionate about it, then go start and do it. And India now has got enough number of folks who can actually fund things, right? We have a number of investors who write personal checks and so forth. So I feel that it's really, if you think that you really want to do it, then you can give it a shot.
Yeah, and I think this session, at least, we can't cover all the questions that the students have asked. And especially for a fundraising and a startup kind of a journey, I think Shripati will request you to have a very specific and oriented session on, your ideas about fundraising and startups and how somebody can start their journey there. But on the other aspect, Shripati, a lot of students have asked, it's very difficult for them to manage their time. They have to do their academics, they have to learn about AI, ML, and all these things. How do they manage time? And of course, there is stress related with all of this over flooding of information that's coming.
So look, I think that you're all adults, and being adults is about making trade-offs, right? So you can't do everything. If you want to do something, I even say as much as using your phone, right? You can actually see Instagram or whatever. I'm not saying it's good or bad, right? People learn a lot of things from seeing YouTube and Instagrams. I don't, but I think a lot of other people do. So I think it's about making trade-offs. And so you are going to be able to do some things, you're not going to be able to do other things. I'm not even saying the purpose of being in college is actually to excel in academics. Maybe instead of getting a 9.0 GPA, it's okay to get an 8.0 GPA, right? Because I think that being college is about learning life skills. It's about learning how to deal with people. And not just about getting the highest possible GPA. And it's really about learning how to learn. So I think that it's not like you are busy. It's like when you say that I'm so busy, it's like, okay, you haven't prioritized your things, what I would like to say. So prioritization, it requires your thinking specifically and saying, I'm not going to do a whole bunch of other things because this other thing is important. So think about that. Sleep is important, by the way. So I hope so don't say I'm not going to sleep.
Thank you, Shripati. Yeah, I think there are a whole lot of other questions for you, Shripati, but we'll take another time. But thank you so much. We know you're just back from US, and God knows how tired or jet lagged you would be. But thank you so much for taking out time for our scholars and for all of us. And like I said, we'll need you again. We'll call you again. We'll invite you again. But for today, thanks a lot, really.
Thank you, Siddharth, and me and everybody else at FFE. It is a pleasure being here. Cheers.
Thanks, Shripati. I think a lot of life lessons and important skills, I think for first-year students in particular. I wish we all had somebody tell us everything that you just did. And food for thought, and I think very practical ways to deal with questions that come to a young person when they are starting their journey, and very ambitious, very motivated, and obviously is very confusing. So I think you really, what you've said is, I think there are a lot of pointers to carry home and to think about and to execute, and very important life lessons. And I think We've recorded we've recorded the session, and I think all the other students, the second, third, and final year students, would find this most valuable. So I hope we can use it and share it with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
right.
one thing we should probably need to thanks again, Shripati, for amazing session. If students, I also want you to learn one thing in this session, which is probably not overtly spoken, is being humble. With the kind of a background with which Mr. Shripati has come in, and the way he's articulated things, and being humble and keeping it as simple as it is means a lot. I think that's a
Yes,
huge
I
lesson
agree.
which all of us have taken from this session, and I want students, all of you, to take that it's about being humble as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ram. Important point.
You're very
Thank-
kind. Thank you so much.
And thanks for being our donor as well.
Very good.
Thank you for believing in in our work and participating. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.